Everyone, and welcome. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the pre-bid and technical review meeting for the Chicago Department of Fleet and Facility Management, 2FM, and the Chicago Public Library, CPL. Sherman Park Branch Library Repairs and Renovations is the name of this contract, and the contract number is C1630. Today's pre-bid and technical review meeting is being held today, July 16th, 2026 at approximately 11 o'clock a.m. We'll get started. Our agenda includes introductions, procurement details, which I will handle, the compliance, which I'll turn it over to our Director of Compliance, Patrice Doyle, and the technical review portion will be handled by our project manager, which will be Cal, Director of Planning and Design. And then we'll have a Q&A session, as James mentioned, at the end of the meeting. To get started, we'll introduce ourselves. I will start with PBC. I am Dee Taylor, the contract officer for this project, and I'll turn it over to James Borkman, our Director of Procurement.
Good morning, everybody. James Borkman. Thanks for joining today.
Good morning, Miguel Fernandez, PBC Procurement.
Good morning, Minnie Keys, PBC Procurement.
Good morning,
Patricia.
Patrice. I'm sorry, Patty, go ahead.
Patricia Montenegro, PBC Procurement.
Good morning, Patrice Dog, PBC Compliance.
Good morning, Jesse Rodriguez, PBC Compliance.
We have other PBC staff. Please introduce yourselves.
Cal Lejeune, Director of Planning and Design. Jose.
Jose Barajas, Project Manager, PBC.
Okay. If that's it for our PBC staff, 2FM, can you please introduce yourselves and your partners? If you're speaking, we can't hear you. Maybe you're muted.
So Max is saying in the chat that his mic is busted, but we do have Max Reardon from Fleet and Facility Management with the City of Chicago.
Okay. Are there any partners?
With CPL, Brian, you want to introduce yourself?
Ryan Arake, Assistant Director of Facilities for Chicago Public Library.
And I don't believe I see any others from, I see Mike from 2FM.
Okay. If that's it, we'll move to our general contractors. Do we have any GCs with us today?
For the sake of time, Dee, since we have about 45 people on the call, we'll go ahead and waive the general contractor, subcontractor, supplier, vendor introductions and just move to the next step in the interest of time.
Okay, great. Thank you, James. Okay, I'll now dive into the procurement details for the project. The project location is 5440 South Racine Avenue, Chicago, Illinois, 60609. An overview of the general scope of work includes both an exterior scope and an interior scope. The exterior scope includes entry stair and ramp, roof repairs and replacement, facade selective tuck pointing, exterior signage, exit stairwell enclosures, ADA flat work, and associated site improvements. The interior scope for the project includes ADA signage, ceiling and wall repairs, restroom upgrades, new staff lounge, new exterior doors, frame and hardware, new circulation desk, new BAS system, new mechanical system, and new folding operable partition. The contractor will be required to prepare a phasing and logistics plan within 30 days of the issuance of the notice to proceed, also known as the NTP, for review and approval prior to the mobilization and commencement of any work. The contractor shall provide critical submittals, including mechanical equipment, RTUs and BAS, and operable partition within 60 days of issuance of the NTP. The contractor shall also be responsible for obtaining any required Chicago Park District access permits. The project overview also includes the time of completion. There are a couple of milestones. Milestone number 1 is for pre-construction, critical submittals, Department of Buildings permit, Chicago Park District access permit approval, etc. The work may not commence sooner than September 1st, 2026. The duration will be between August 11, 2026 to November 30th, 2026. And November 30th, 2026 is the completion date for the milestone. Substantial completion includes on-site mobilization. Please mute your microphone, please. Substantial completion includes on-site mobilization, site control, renovation work, and associated site development. Work may not commence sooner than December 1st, 2026, and the duration will be between December 1st, 2026 to October 29th, 2027. So October 29th, 2027 is the completion date for substantial completion. Milestone number 2 includes landscaping. Work may not commence sooner than October 1st, 2027, and the duration will be between October 1st, 2027 to October 29th, 2027. October 29th, 2027 is the completion date for milestone number 2. Liquidated damages will be assessed for failure to achieve either substantial completion or either of the 2 milestones. There'll be $1,500 per day assessed for failure to achieve substantial completion and $500 per day assessed for failure to achieve either of the 2 milestone dates. Documents are available in a few places for this project. For one, the PBC's current opportunities page, which is on our website. The address is on the screen. We also have documents available on our online plan room. Our printer is Springer Blueprint Services, and their address and contact information is on the screen. The contact name is David Drenner, and there's an email and phone number for you to contact the printer to access any of the documents. And we also encourage you to sign up for our PBC alerts on our website, and that way you'll be sent the information. The project includes Book 1, Book 2, Book 3, and construction drawings. Book 1 includes our introduction, general project overview, submission requirements. A few of the highlights in Book 1 includes the bid form, the MBE, WBE, and EEO goals, as well as the community area map. Book 2 includes the standard terms and conditions for contracts for the PBC. And Book 3 includes the technical specifications. And as I mentioned, there are also construction drawings for the project. The documents also are available through our assist agencies. We have numerous assist agencies listed on the screen, and we encourage you to contact them. Also, for information on available MBEs and WBEs for the project. The technical review meeting will be held today, immediately following this meeting at approximately 11:30 a.m. So far, there has been no site visit scheduled for this project. However, failure of the bidders to become familiar with the project shall not relieve or alter the bidder's responsibility for completing the work as required by the contract documents. I am the sole point of contact. Again, my name is Dee Taylor. I'm the contract officer for the project. I can be reached at dee.taylor@cityofchicago.org. For any questions, we call requests for information, RFIs. The deadline for submitting your RFI is July 28th, 2026 by 4:00 p.m. And again, there have been no addendum issued to date. The bid due date and time is Tuesday, August 4th, 2026 at 11:00 a.m. However, this information is subject to change via addendum. Again, encourage you to sign up for PBC alerts so you'll receive notifications. The virtual meeting details include the bid being streamed live and also recorded and available on our website for viewing on PBC's homepage. at www.pbcchicago.com and on the current opportunities page for this project. Again, address listed on the screen. The bid submission requirements. The bid must be submitted electronically in one email that includes the following 3 documents. One complete copy of the bid document with original signatures in blue ink or digital signature. You must include your bid bond with your submission. And the PDF document should be a searchable PDF document and not a scanned copy, with the exception of documents only available as a copy, such as licenses. You also must include one complete copy of the master bid form document in PDF format, as well as one complete copy of the master bid form document in Excel format. You must email your bid to 2 places. One is directly to myself, again at dee.taylor@cityofchicago.org, and also to pbc-procurement@cityofchicago.org. If for some reason you are unable to submit your bid electronically, you may request instruction for submitting a hard copy bid. You must submit it in writing to myself. Again, d.taylor@cityofchicago.org, and James Borkman, our Director of Procurement, will issue a response. The pre-award meeting for the successful contractor is scheduled for Thursday, August 6th, 2026 at 11 o'clock a.m. It is a virtual meeting and again is subject to change via addendum. The lowest responsive and responsible bidder shall be required to have at a minimum the project executive, the project manager if known, and cost estimator in attendance. We encourage you to invite principals of all your MBE WBE subcontractors listed on your Schedule D. And you must provide and be prepared to discuss the schedule of values if applicable for the project. And also provide a list of pre-award meeting attendees in advance of the meeting. The notice of award, the anticipated schedule for the notice of award or NOA is August 2026, following the PBC Board of Commissioners meeting. The successful general contractor will be required to provide a compliance certificate of insurance as well as a payment and performance bond within 7 days of the issuance of the NOA. Now for some highlights in Book 1 and Book 2 for the project, which include budget, staffing, and additional requirements. All of this information can be found in Book 1. The estimated construction budget will be on page 4, and that amount is $2,500,000 to $2,600,000. The mandatory project staffing is on page 5. The scheduling software requirements can be found on page 6. Liquidated damages on page 6, and prevailing wage rates on page 7, as well as page 38, where we have a link to the Illinois Department of Labor. The PBC encourages joint ventures for this project. You'll be required to submit a Schedule B, which is the joint venture affidavit. It can be found in Book 1 on page 23. You'll also be required to submit the JV agreement as well as the certification letters. This is a sample on your screen of the bid form for this project. As you can see circled at the bottom, this is where the total will automatically populate. We also require additional information on your surety firm. Your surety firm, we want the name and address of your surety, and also information for your firm, your name and the date of your bid submission. On the screen is also a sample of our award criteria figure form. And as you can see, you're to enter individual figures, their percentages for the minority journeymen, minority apprentices, minority laborers, female journeymen, female apprentices, and female laborers who will participate on the project. The maximum percentages for the minority categories is 70%. And for the female categories, it's 15%. The basis of award, which can be found in Book 1 on page 10. The award will be made to the responsible bidder submitting the lowest award criteria figure, which can be found on line 6 of the bid form, and otherwise responsive to all of the requirements of the contract documents as determined by the commission. Firms are required to fill out the entire bid form to be considered responsive. The commission reserves the right to reject any and all bids wherever such rejection is in the best interest of the commission. Bids that the PBC considers to be materially unbalanced will be rejected. I will turn this portion of the presentation, which is the compliance portion. I'll turn it over to the Director of Compliance, Patrice Doyle.
Good morning, everyone. And the MBE and WBE goals for this project is 26% MBE, WBE aggregate, meaning that you can achieve this goal by an MBE or WBE or a combination of MBEs and WBEs to reach that 26% MBE, WBE aggregate goal. We only accept certifications from the City of Chicago or Cook County. So when they're submitting their information for MBE and WBE credit, make sure they are currently certified with the City of Chicago or Cook County and the scope of work that they will be performing or the services that they may be providing. For additional information, you can find it in Book 2, Article 23. For your award criteria figure, the maximum that you can submit is 70%, which means you plan to achieve 70% of the total hours worked to be performed by minority journey workers, minority apprentice, minority laborers. The maximum is 15% female journey workers, female apprentice, female laborers. You must determine what you as a general contractor can achieve. So the maximum that you can submit per the award criteria is 70% minority journey apprentice and labor, 15% female journey apprentice and labor, and if awarded the contracts, they are no longer goals, they are contract requirements. The community hiring requirement is 7.5%, meaning that 7.5% of the total hours worked must be performed by those tradespeople identified in the community area map, and that 50% of the total hours worked performed on this project must be City of Chicago residents. This is the community area map, which the 7.5% of the total hours work performed must have tradespeople that are currently living in this community area map. We use B2G now as our MBE WBE tracking system. For your MBE or WBE, if they are an established business, meaning they are in the process of graduating from the MBE WBE program, they will only receive that specific amount of credit. So when you're looking at your MBEs and WBEs, make sure you're checking the database to see that they are not an established business because they may have graduated in that specific trade that they are performing. So if they are an established business and they have in the process of graduating, the first year they'll only receive 75% credit, the second year is 50% credit, and the third year is 25% credit. The certifying agencies determine what their percentages is, and they also identify the dates of their graduation as well as the percentages. So make sure you're looking at the database as well with your MBE and WBE contractors. Manufacturers receive 100%, suppliers receive 60%, and brokers receive 0% credit. You must submit a Schedule D and a Schedule C at time of bid. The Schedule D indicates the credit amount, not always the contract amount. So the Schedule D should be submitted by the general contractor. So the amount of credit will be identified on the Schedule D. As mentioned earlier, if they're an established business at 75% credit and their contract value is $100,000, the credit amount on here will be $75,000. If they are a supplier and their contract value is $100,000, the credit amount is $60,000 on the Schedule D. The Schedule C should be submitted by the subcontractor. Their total contract value should appear on the Schedule C, also including the scope of work that they will be performing. The subcontracting levels on page 2 is often not completed. Make sure that area is completed. If they are subcontracting any work, not supplies, just work being performed on a contract, they must indicate their percentages. If they are subcontracting work to a non-MBE or WBE, for instance, 10% to a non-MBE WBE firm, then and their contract value is 100,000 on that Schedule D, they only receive 90,000 credit. If they are subcontracting 10% to an MBE or WBE, their contract value is 100,000, their credit amount is 100,000, and if awarded the contract, additional information will be required for both subcontracting levels if they are subletting any work to either a non-MBE or an MBE or WBE. Thank you. Dee,
Okay.
back to you.
Yes, thank you, Patrice. Again, just a reminder that I am the sole point of contact for this contract. Any questions, any requests for information, please contact me at dee.taylor@cityofchicago.org. And now I will turn the technical review portion over to our project manager, Director of Planning and Design, Cal Lejeune.
Thank you, Dee. I am not a project manager. I am Director of Planning and Design, though. So I'm going to run you through the aspects of the project for purposes of understanding holistically what the scope is, what we're trying to achieve, so that we get the best result. Current conditions, these are kind of listed in order to understand the components of why the project is existing in the first place. You know, it needs a new roof, the HVAC needs to be replaced, there are issues with ADA, both inside and outside, rooms that are inadequate in terms of use, you know, looking at standard things like enough power and data to be able to handle the kind of, you know, task of folks within the library, you know, handling trip hazards. These are kind of all of the primary conditions that has stemmed from this existing library for a long time that we're trying to remedy and bring it up to status for patrons' use. Next slide, please. And this is part of a vision that CPL has for their facilities. We want to make sure that their buildings are warm, safe, and dry. Accessibility is a very important component, and to make it a welcoming center so that folks can use the flexibility of use in terms of space, both for specific programming, but also for future-minded programming that may change. The focus on access, this is more than just, you know, digital and technology access, but also generally for everything, including books, collections, and everything else for patrons to use. And then knowing that this is one of many beacons within a neighborhood to make sure that this continues to strengthen the folks that are in the community. Next slide. Location of the project, it's bounded at the corner of Sherman Park. West Garfield Boulevard runs east-west, and then north-south is Racine Avenue. The library is a small little building you see there, and a larger park that we'll talk more about in a minute. Next slide. The renovation scope, keeping in mind the theme of CPL and their focus vision, you know, the warm, safe, and dry is handling things like new exit signs, exit doors, key card system for access, you know, watertight building, there's a new roof, the lower roof that's completely being replaced as part of that, handling drainage, plaster repairs, and looking at relocating uses within the lower level for staff as well as the break room. Comfortable spaces, managing the HVAC system for the building, putting it on a BAS so that there's an opportunity to remote identify and modify that aspect, lighting controls, and water heaters. So these are the components that fall under the warm, safe, and dry. Next scope. Accessibility and welcoming sort of breaks down what's happening inside, the patrons to have access, you know, the ramp that is in front of the building, the entry door, the automatic door operator for accessibility, working through interior for the public restrooms as part of the renovation. The exterior, making sure that it's a nice, clean building, managing the stone, providing the new entry front stair, some lighting fixtures to handle the lighting area in front of the building, removing window grates that are part of a prior kind of endeavor, and then, enhancing the series of enclosures in the back of the building, or I should say around the building for the stairwells for safety. Then the patrons are also supported internally by staff to work with them on the spaces and to have this refreshed interior renovation as part of the project. Next. The third, being flexible and future-minded, the community room, looking at expansion, kind of multi-modulated storage, dividers in order to split the room up for additional use, and then supporting for the study room, which is a great way of, again, expanding the flexibility of the space for multiple programming. And then there are some future aspects that the CPL will be looking at by creating setups and tables and integrated power, the rolling book displays, and other kind of FF&E related movable components that will help support the library. Next. Then focused on access, that's looking at access to technology. We know that the media and public libraries has increased a lot over the years, so this library is getting an upgrade to ensure that that is available to these patrons. Building the neighborhood, again, a very important aspect of providing shelving, enough books and opportunities, certainly within a society that's trying to get rid of books. We want to make sure that this is available at this facility, and looking at lounge furnishing for various age groups to participate within the building as patrons. Next slide. And I think the last priority then is to strengthen the neighborhood. This is a very important aspect, a place to gather, right? This is a facility that's used year round. It is a warming and cooling center. They tend to be at the library, so it's a very important opportunity, and providing spaces where groups can gather within the building is extremely important. Being that hub to be able to access not just staff that's available in the library, but also all of the resources that are available for them to be a part of the space. And then the supporting staff for whatever the patrons need as part of the library, and the workroom that's on the first floor, which will likely get used quite a bit from the community having that space available. Next slide. So with those five priorities, it sort of breaks it down into different areas of the plan that focuses on this. So the color-coded identifies the mechanical room work that's being done, the staff break area, which is a much larger space, the restrooms that are brought up to accessibility, the support in the lower level that has things like lighting and other finishes and cabling and so forth, and then the staff work area on the lower level to help support the individuals that are managing the patrons in the library. Next slide. The ground level, which is the primary level. What's in yellow are the reading areas. That's the heavily used zone with the stacks and books for the patrons. You have that center area, which is the entry and circulation that takes you from outside up the stairs and or ramp to get in the building, and then being able to access the reception desk that is now overly expanded to handle and support the patrons that are coming in. And then the meeting area, that's the flex space discussed, where that could be used for different functions within the library based on what patrons need. And then the stairwell enclosures for security, and closing those on the outside surrounding the building. Next. Roof plan showing the higher roof on the right and then the lower roof on the left. Part of the scope is the replacement of the low roof on the left side, complete all the way down to the structure, and rebuilding back up after demo for that new system to ensure that it's warm, safe, and dry. Next slide. Couple of elevations showing you the primary entry on the upper left, the east elevation. You're seeing the entry stairwell, the ramp that is to the left, bringing you into the building. Lots of things are being managed here in terms of signage, the cleaning of the stone on the outside, tuck pointing, new entry doorways, glazing, all of which to try and create this warm feeling and protection as part of the library. And it's just noting out the series of other elevations on the north and facing the park, on the south end facing West Garfield Boulevard, and then lastly on the west facing the park, seeing those elevations for reference. So one-story building with basement and then the slope roofs, high roof, and then the low roof on the west end. Next slide. As we look at, as part of the bid for construction, we mentioned a logistics plan to be provided. Certainly one aspect of the library is the relocation of functions of the library during the time of construction. So that will happen before construction starts. But working on the site logistics in terms of the street coordination, work in the public right of way, and of course, protection from the park that will be in use throughout the full duration. So this is just information to understand barriers as needed, keeping the site fairly clean, managing the dust and noise control, of which we provide notice to the aldermen and community ahead of us doing that. And then, of course, traffic control, that's a key component to ensure that Racine Avenue continues to function as it should. Next slide. Key project considerations. So the parameters on design and construction excellence will always be retained as important to us. The time of completion requirements and the critical dates identified in Book 1. The phasing and logistics, just talked about in the last slide. There is the environmental abatement for this project. There's reporting as well as documentation to provide the clarity for the scope for abatement. Coordinating the FF&E scope that's being provided by the owner. Those have been identified and will be coordinated for the project. The public right-of-way, there's currently a GOP, a grant of privilege with CDOT for approval of that right-of-way coordination with the stairwell and other aspects. Then there is the library closure, as mentioned, as part of the phasing to understand when patrons or the library itself is closed for the work that's being done prior to mobilization and working towards the construction and then the patrons coming back. And then lastly, just the execution strategy to work on, safety, QA, management, and closeout. Those are very important in terms of how we manage, and the general contractor will be managing those aspects to make sure that we stay on point. Next slide. And then the anticipated project schedule, community engagement will continue throughout the project until its completion. We are currently in the procurement phase, June to August. Our planned PBC approval date is in August. And soon after that meeting will be the notice of award with the NTP, hopefully just a few weeks after that to cap it off at the end of August. The library will be planning as part of the project for the full closure by November 2026. And then the general contractor then has full clearance on the interior and exterior renovations, which will start in early December to take it to project completion in Q4 2027, as well as the turnover. So the schedule will get detailed as the project gets started from your committed P6 schedule, but it will generally follow this formatting on the contents of the schedule. And I believe that's the last slide, Dean.
Yeah, thank you, Cal.
Great, thank you.
We have reached the Q&A portion of our meeting. Are there any questions for any of the presenters?
Dee, right now we have no questions in the chat, and I don't see anyone's hand being raised.
Okay, thank you, James. So at this time, we'll conclude our meeting. Thank you, everyone, for joining our pre-bid and technical review meeting for the City of Chicago's Department of Fleet and Facility Management, as well as the Chicago Public Libraries, Sherman Park Branch Library, repairs and renovations. Thank you so much and have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dee.
Yes.